Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Adult Child of Dysfunction. Today we have with us Josie Gibson. And boy, if her bio isn't short and to the point, and I love it. She said, I love, oh, I don't know what that's doing. Turning that off. Okay, what she does, I'm just gonna start that over.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm gonna, did you hear it coming back to me?
No, I didn't. Did it
Oh, it was
feedback?
coming back to me. I had it on the
Oh, I
other
got it.
one. So, yes, I'm going to go ahead and turn this one off and get that one going. And yeah, we're probably on YouTube right now, but that's, you know what, to err is human,
Yes.
right? So we're not
Yep.
going to turn that off. We're just going to keep going.
Roll right over it.
Okay. Make sure we're still recording. Okay, so welcome back to another episode of Adult Child of Dysfunction. Today we have with us Josie Gibson. She is an expert in Dianetics and helping people live up to their fullest potential. Welcome, Josie.
Thank you for having me, Tammy. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Yeah, rough start with my technology. I'm the
It
least
happens.
logically brilliant person in the planet. Maybe,
We
maybe not.
all
I'm not.
have something technologically that we're trying to still figure out. So
Oh
you're
my gosh.
good.
I was just laughing. I think we were talking right before this that I just had an interview with someone that was like one of the first people on Facebook, like a
Yeah,
bigger, corporate person in Facebook working right along Mark Zuckerberg.
yeah.
And he said when he got the call, he literally didn't even answer them back because he was like, I don't know what Facebook is. I mean, it was brand new, and
Yeah,
he's more my generation than the 19 and 20-year-olds that were all on Facebook back in the
right.
90s. But it was
Yeah.
so funny. He didn't even answer Mark back. He was like, man, I don't know what that is. I don't think I need it. Then somebody was like, that's Facebook. And
You better take that.
yeah, that's a call I might possibly take. So anyway, we're just going to jump right in. I just want to thank you
Yeah,
for coming.
thank
Um,
you.
Being the name is of the podcast, you said you heard a couple episodes as adult child of dysfunction. Our stories are all of hope and healing and learning different ways to look at life. And we all struggle. I mean, we've all had struggles. And
Yeah.
you don't need to have this, as a child, you didn't need to have this tremendously awful life to experience some kind of childhood trauma. And
So true.
because of that,
Yeah.
we look at the world a little differently sometimes. So let's jump right in. Let's talk about what Dianetics is.
Yeah. Well, Dianetics itself, it's Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health, and this is a book and also a study and science of the mind. And it was discovered by the author L. Ron Hubbard that there was a previously unknown and hidden portion of our mind, which we typically know as the subconscious mind. But did you know that there is actually a name for this, and it is called the reactive mind? And this is the part of the mind that actually causes us to have irrational behaviors and irrational thoughts and have, insecurities and self-doubts and those things about ourselves that we really don't like or that we're trying to improve about ourselves. Those are all stored and root from this reactive mind. And the reason for that is that, as you were saying, we have past traumas in our life, right? Like childhood and beyond, we have past traumas. And these can be anything from a physical trauma to an emotional trauma. But regardless, it is something that has really impacted our life, right? And so, let's say, we have these engrams, which are recordings of moments of pain and unconsciousness. And these recordings and engrams are stored in the reactive mind. And what happens is that later in life, they can get triggered and cause us to lash out in moments when we don't really want to or we don't know why it's happening. And it also can cause us to have those moments of insecurity or self-doubt or, even moments of like irrational thoughts that we're having. Those all stem from that reactive mind and those moments getting triggered in our life.
Well, it's funny because on this podcast, we do a lot of talking about managing triggers and stuff like that. But I mean,
Yeah,
that's the Dianetics sounds like just the basis of what we talk about of that subconscious mind.
totally.
And you do. I sometimes, I mean, I'm 58 years old. I've been doing this healing thing for many decades, and still
Yeah.
sometimes I'll snap at something and I'll be like, whoa, that was the 5-year-old me. Like,
Right.
where did that come from? Like,
Yeah,
that is not who I am, but
exactly.
it's something that happens. And, triggers are not, they're not meant to be ignored. I mean, but like you said, they kick in and they run the show sometimes.
Totally. You're absolutely correct. I mean, the reactive mind is the subconscious part of our mind, and because it's subconscious, it acts without us even knowing. And
Mhm.
that's the scary thing about it is that you don't actually have control over when you snap or when you have that moment happen. And you, like you were saying, like sometimes you're like, that was 5-year-old me that's happening right now. And I'm like 50 years old. Like, what am I doing in this moment? But that's the unique thing about Dianetics is that even just simply from reading the book, you actually discover why that happens and how to actually get rid of it. Because Dianetics is not only a science of the mind, but it's actually a technique that you can do to actually alleviate these traumas, get rid of them, and get rid of the reactive mind so you no longer store these irrational moments and pains and traumas that are really affecting us later in our life. Because let's face it, when we don't have control over those moments, we feel a bit crazy and we feel a bit insane in that moment. And we're wondering, why did that happen? Why did I act like that? I wish I didn't do that. And that's really not us. Really, we are logical, we're sane, we think clearly. The majority of the time, that's how we act, right? But
The
then when
majority
we
of the time.
majority of the time, we hope. But the majority of the time we are very rational and we think clearly, but then we have those moments where we snap or we break, and that's the reactive mind that is causing us to act irrationally in that moment. But Dianetics actually addresses those moments and gets rid of them so you're no longer holding on to them and no longer affected by it.
So talk about the I guess the modality of, you said it's a theory, it's a book. I mean, it's all this stuff. So is it hypnosis or how are we getting rid of the reactive mind thoughts?
Yeah. Well, it's not hypnosis. It's actually a very specific science and technique that you do. It's very precise, and literally anybody can do this technique. You could do it, just you do it with a partner. And so you could partner up with one of your friends in your house just as long as there's a quiet space and you could do this technique. It's obviously all described in the book Dianetics, so it will be very simple for anybody to read it and to apply it. But just to give you a little bit of an idea of how this works, you basically we have these moments of pain and unconsciousness, right? And what you're doing is that with this partner, you're locating these moments because sometimes they're hidden and we don't know exactly like what is really truly affecting us, right? So we're locating these moments of the root of our problems, the moment of pain and unconsciousness, and we're actually addressing and getting rid of the negative mental energy or charge that's connected to that moment, because that's what we really are acting on is that negative mental energy, right? And that's what causes us to snap later in life. And so when you address that and you get rid of it, you are just simply left with that memory that doesn't actually have hold of you and take charge of you any longer. And as you use the Dianetics technique, you're actually able to completely one by one get rid of all the negative mental energy so that you are just simply you and you get to control all of your thoughts, all of your behaviors, and not act out in a way that you didn't actually mean to or you didn't want to. You're simply just left as you. And that's the beautiful thing about it.
Yes, and it sounds, I mean, is it a long process? Is it a short process or
Yeah, I mean, it takes as long as it takes because look, we all have
a
different
lot?
experiences in our life. I mean, for one person to the other, we all have different memories, different experiences in our life, but it doesn't have to take long at all. And really, the end of doing the Dynex technique, as you continue to use it, you actually achieve a state called clear. And that is simply just someone who no longer has a reactive mind. Because that's the goal of Dianetics, is to actually get rid of this reactive mind so that you are not controlled by it.
Right.
And to further elaborate on that, you actually have two parts of the mind. And it was discovered in Dianetics. Like you have two parts, and you have the irrational part, like I was saying, you have that reactive mind that reacts in moments when you're just like so upset, or maybe you're really sad, or just those moments when you're under pain and duress or stress or anxiety, and that mind will get triggered. What the other part of the mind is the good part. And that's the analytical mind. And that's the part where you think very clearly and you calculate, you solve problems, you're creative, you're joyful and happy. And that's really the goal, is that you are just you, because that's what the analytical mind is it's just simply you, without all of those traumatizing moments built up on top of you, because we have so many memories and moments in our life when, whether they're positive or negative, they build up, right? And then they build up to a point where we're stuck down here. We're stuck down in the bottom and we're like, where am I? I'm like this shiny, bright light. And as we go throughout life, our light gets dimmed. But
Mm.
Dianetics actually helps you to really get rid of all of these traumatizing moments so that you are that bright, shining light that you know that you are.
That's amazing. And I'm just going to tell everybody now, just reach
Yeah.
out and get the book, listen to it on audio. I mean, whatever, because
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we work with. That's what I work with my clients with. And it is so funny how, like you said, many of these memories there are, and then it could just be one. So it's
Totally.
like I had a client that just had this unbelievable sense of being unlovable by her mother. And I
Wow.
was like, and I'm like, oh, I get it. My mom told me she hated me every day of my life. And she's like,
Yeah.
but my mom didn't.
Mm,
And so we had to go back and we really spent some time and then finally one day it was maybe three times we had talked 2 or 3 times and she kept dropping it and go back to other stuff. But then one day I said, let's go back let's talk about your best friend.
right.
I
Yes.
said, how was that? Did you have a best friend? And she said, yeah. And I said, oh, did you have sleepovers? And it was
Mhm.
like the light went off. And she said,
Yeah.
oh my God, Tammy, one time I had a sleepover at my house with a bunch of girls. And she said, and my mother had gotten a new job. And so she was late to pick me up 3 times that week. I was in first grade. She said, and my friend, she goes, I remember it like it was yesterday, but I hadn't thought about it in 40 years. She said,
Wow.
my friend said to me, your mother must not love you. She didn't pick you up on time.
Wow.
So it gives me goosebumps to this day because I'm
Yeah.
thinking, oh my God, that had the same effect on her as my mother literally telling me every day she hated me.
Right.
So that wasn't a big T trauma, like what you consider a big T trauma. It was one
Yeah.
comment by one little girl that dug into her brain and she now felt that her mother didn't love her.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of memories I'm assuming you're talking about going back to that and figuring out that trigger point
Yeah.
because it changed her whole life. She was now 47 years
Totally.
old and she was still
Still holding on to
processing,
it.
still holding on to this.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
mean,
go ahead.
do you want to finish? I just cut
No,
you off. Sorry.
you're good. You're good.
Um, but like to your point, there are a couple of different types of what we call in Dianetics engrams, right? And these moments of pain and unconsciousness, that's what an engram is. And so there's a couple different types where you can have these really emotional moments and heavy emotions such as like grief, for example, like the fear of losing a loved one or having lost a loved one. That's a super heavy emotion for anybody to deal with. And so you
Yeah.
can have really emotional moments, even anger, for example. If you've ever had like a major, major argument with a loved one, that is also, there's a moment when you kind of blank out, right? And you're like, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I don't remember my argument. I'd like, whatever, right? And so those are really heavily charged moments of emotion. And then we also have our physical pain and unconsciousness. So like really good example, a surgery. Like if you ever have gone in and gotten a surgery, maybe at that moment, the doctor is saying something like, oh, well, we can't save the leg or something like that. And then later down the road, something's wrong with your leg because your mind is thinking and recording in that very moment, but
Mm,
now it's acting subconsciously against you, and now your leg is like messed up, or even just simply like I knew somebody who said that they had a surgery and then the doctor was saying like it's really hot in here. And then later down the road, anytime she went to the hospital or somebody there was some like basically environment that was similar to that moment in the past, she would get really hot. And it
Mm,
wasn't until she addressed the actual root and like the source of it, which was in the reactive mind, that she actually was able to be like, wow, I can look at this situation and be in this environment and not feel really hot irrationally, right? And to your point, I have a friend who's very similar to this person you were just talking to, and she had watched her best friend actually die in a fire, in a house fire. And it was so traumatizing. I mean, that like
mm,
I could never imagine that happening, right? And it was her best friend, and she lived right across the street from her. So every time that she walked out of her house, she was seeing that house and constantly being reminded of that. And then it gets triggered, or what we call in Dianetics, re-stimulated into the present. And so from there, she's like, well, I'm not going to trust anybody, and I'm not going to let anybody love me from here on out because I love that person, and that person was taken away from me. And
yep.
she carried that out throughout her entire life, even to the degree of not being able to differentiate that with relationships. I mean, she was just like toxic relationship after the next toxic relationship, and I have to be the first one to break it off because I cannot let anybody actually truly love me because they'll be taken away from me. And that's how the reactive mind works, is that it doesn't think clearly, and it thinks like on a everything is the same as everything else. Like one thing was bad, and so everything else that's similar in any regard is gonna be exactly
Mhm.
like that first incident. And
Yeah.
so then my friend actually she addressed this actual like moment of pain and unconsciousness, and she was with Dianetics, and she was actually able to spot the exact reason that that happened, get rid of it, and she was able to, have a wonderful relationship. She's married of like 20 something years and has beautiful children and so on. But you really have to get to the roots and find what the source is of all of your traumas.
Right. And it's funny that you talked about like the sensories too, because
Yeah,
it couldn't be a physical trauma and
totally.
sensory things literally. And it's like when that trauma happens, kind of like you said, you're frozen in that moment of time. It's like a snapshot gets put
Yeah,
into this reactive mind of that
exactly.
moment, that day, that anything. I remember one time I had a bad experience on a leather couch. Let's just put it that way. And it wasn't one of my best moments in my life.
Uh-huh.
And I remember then, like years later, a couple years later, I was driving with my dad, and I'm this back in the God 80s, and he had bought this new leather recliner, and I don't know what possessed me, but I freaking leaned over and took a bite out of the arm of it. It's like, I got beat, let me tell you.
Wow.
But I don't know what possessed me to do it until later I
Right.
figured it out because then I was like, oh my God, it was that smell of that leather.
Oh,
I
wow.
because I could never sit on that chair. It was
Yeah.
just ugh, like I couldn't do it. And of
Yeah.
course, then through therapy and stuff, they were talking one day about senses, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, you're so right. Like that's why I bit that leather chair. And I know it's kind of funny
That's
now to
so
talk,
funny. Oh my gosh.
but it was
It's so
frozen.
real.
That smell of that leather was
Yeah.
frozen into my mind. And then when
Yeah.
I would smell leather, I would get angry and I didn't really think about it. Like there were times walking through the mall where I would just have like this rage. It
Oh,
was probably
yeah.
because I was in Wilson's leather store. I don't know if that
Yeah.
exists anymore, but it was, and until I went to therapy, I mean, you don't know what you don't know. So that's great for
Totally.
people listening to, like we said, start being aware of the trigger so that
Yeah.
you can, when you have the time, you have the space, you have the safety, and you have somebody with you that you can
Mhm.
trust, you can figure it out.
Exactly. And to that point, like there are many different perceptions that we pick up on when we're unconscious. Like the reactive mind records on a subconscious level. So even when you are unconscious, you're recording everything that's happening around you. Everything from the sounds around you and people talking to the dog barking to the sprinklers going off in the lawn to even the fly that's like roaming around the room, to the
Hmm.
touch your body on if you're on the floor, like the touch of the floor, the tactile on that, to even just sight, or everything that's happening around us is being recorded in the reactive mind. And when we don't know what those things are, literally anything at any given moment could be similar to
Yeah.
that moment. And that's when it gets brought up. I knew somebody who also had gone to the doctor and had had a fainting moment and was unconscious in that moment. And ever since then, could not go to the doctor without fainting. Couldn't do
Mm,
it because the mind was totally being like, this is the similar situation of when that first incident happened. And even like talking about doctors, talking about the body, like that was like, these were all stimulators of that previous moment and that engram. So every time it got brought up, she was like, I'm out of here. And that's the mind trying to protect you. But then at the same time, even when she's having a very sane and rational conversation about her health, she's gonna try to faint. But that's not like the rational thing to do in that moment because you do actually need help in that moment. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
it wasn't until she actually went and found the exact source and the alleviated the trauma from that engram with the Dianetics technique. It wasn't until she actually did that that she was able to then just have a conversation about doctors or about herself and her health, you know?
Yeah.
It's definitely a very real thing and we need to actually address it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first step is awareness. Just start being aware, start writing these things down. Start when you start doing that, because like I said, I'll say to myself, well, that wasn't me. That was definitely the 5-year-old me. And then when I go home, I'll go through, I mean, I have my own process of kind of going back through time and okay, when
Yeah.
did why would that, how, where, using your senses. But the important thing to know too, and I think you kind of said it several times in many different ways, but for the listeners, when you are in that irrational side of the brain, they can't both work at the same time.
Right.
So that is why when you are triggered and you're getting ready to lash out at someone, or you're getting ready to hit your kids, or you're getting ready to just have the brawl of your life, when you're in that state, don't. Like that's where you can't. You are not logically thinking. You're going to say the wrong things. You're going to say stuff you regret. You're just not thinking logically. You can't be
Yeah.
thinking with both sides of the brain at that moment.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell people, and I've always kind of used it for a rule for myself. When I get angry or something, it doesn't matter where I am. I take a deep breath or I wiggle my toes 10 times or whatever it is, but I count to 10. I look both ways, kind of get yourself bouncing and back and forth between one side of the brain and the other,
Hmm.
and get yourself down before you react,
Right.
because that is where you make the bad choices. And
Yeah.
even though now you've seen this podcast and now you're going to be like, oh, I'm aware I do that. Well, now
Yeah.
that you're aware, it's your responsibility not to do it.
Totally. That's so
Totally.
true. And when you have the knowledge of how to actually address that, you do have that responsibility, totally. But
Hmm.
one thing that I think is really unique about Dianetics specifically is that we have recurring cycles that might happen like that. Like, for example, let's say that a parent is, they have, like a mom has two children, and one of her children she's super sweet to, and always has, like, everything is super easy and simple, right? And then she has another child, and somehow nothing ever goes right with that child. Like, just everything is always wrong, and the child is always wrong, and, whatever. But now let's take it back. 5 years prior, the child was younger and the mom was ill at this moment, right? So there's unconsciousness from the degree that she is not operating her full awareness at that moment. And so let's say in this incident that the child is saying, Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. And the mom is recording that in the reactive mind. And she might get really upset and be like, Go away. Like, I don't need you here right now, right? Well, the mom in that moment is recording in her reactive mind. And later, 5 years down the road, the child says maybe something like, Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. And it's the same thing. Well, the reactive mind is going to instantly think, well, that's the same moment. So the mom lashes out on the child and she's like, Go away. I don't need you here. Even though maybe the kid just needs some help, like pulling down a bag of chips from the shelf or something. So it's not a rational moment, but that might recur over and over. Like we
Hmm.
have recurring cycles or habits that happen all the time. And so maybe nothing ever goes right with this child. But if you actually address and get rid of not only the mental energy and the charge, but actually get rid of the reactive mind, then you no longer have anything like any of those engrams in the reactive mind to actually be triggered later down the road. And that's the unique thing about Dianetics is that you're actually getting rid of the like the storage bank, if you will, that
Mm-hmm.
is storing all these traumatic incidences. And when you get rid of it, you don't have anything else to put in there. So you can't be triggered later down the road. You simply just think clearly. Like when you are thinking rationally all the time with your analytical mind and you've achieved that state of clear, you are simply just you. And you have complete control. And not to mention, you're motivated, you're more productive, self-confident, you're even creative because you just
Hmm.
flow. And there's nothing that's blocking you from being able to just be you. And that's the beautiful thing of that.
I mean, yes, it's everybody's perfect scenario, right?
Right. Yeah. I
I
mean, it
mean,
seems too good to be true, right? But then it's totally, I mean, people are achieving this state of clear like every single day. And that's the
yeah,
amazing thing. And you can even just do it with a friend, like in your home.
yeah. No, I mean, it is amazing. And it's funny because, like you said, it doesn't have that reactive charge. And, your mind is, if you go back into like the quantum world, there is no time, space, like none of that matters. So your
Right.
mind doesn't, you're right there. Whether it
Yeah.
happened 25 years ago or your mind, it's right there, right now,
Mhm.
right here. So,
Yeah.
um, that's why I tell people, when you're trying to do something and, when you're thinking through something or visualizing something, see it and feel it because your mind
Yeah.
doesn't know. So
Right.
if you want to be a world renowned speaker and you're visualizing yourself constantly, just visualize yourself up on a stage.
Yeah.
And then the energy in the universe or whatever you call it is going to push you to get that vision because
Right.
it's already happened. You're there,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
That's Joe Dispenza. Same thing, it's like when but it's true. And
It's so true.
so yeah, and your mind is there to protect you. It is 100% there to protect you. And I always say, that's where we go into, I do a lot of the somatic healing and stuff like that because like we talked about that visceral response, sometimes you can trick your mind a little bit. You can trick your mind a lot easier than you can trick your body, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever
Yeah.
because sometimes you'll be like, oh yeah, or like affirmations. Oh, I got this. I'm yes, yes, yes. And then you say to yourself, I'm going to do all good things. And then your stomach like turns into this like
Right.
ball of goo. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, not quite convinced there,
Yeah,
Tammy,
exactly, right?
So, I mean, it's fascinating work that you do. It's the mind is just so absolutely amazing. And,
Mhm.
my big message to people always is like, none of that was your fault. None of that, but
Yeah.
you have to choose to want to do the work because even though
Yeah.
you said it's easy, you listen to a book and you do this, you still have to do the work.
Totally. I
You
mean,
have,
it is not easy to actually confront these moments because, like, you, we blank them out in our mind for a reason. They're traumatic and they're not something that we want to look at. Like, who wants to go back and actually look at the moment when we were unconscious or we were having a moment of actual real trauma? Like, we don't want to look at it. But that's why we have to look back at it and actually be able to confront it and do the work to get rid of that because otherwise it just continues to happen over and over and over again. And to your point, you said something really excellent is that it's not about what you did. It's about what's been done to you. And
absolutely.
that's and Dianetics actually it actually says that directly from the book is it's about what's been done to you. And I think that's a really important message out there for people is that they know that there's something new to do about their mental health and that there is actually a solution for people that is not going to just be like a band-aid over the wound. It's a
Mhm.
permanent solution that helps you to completely change your life and be able to exponentially improve yourself and your abilities. I mean, even as simple as like you reminded me when I had a friend that he's a renowned musician, like performed on some of the biggest stages out there. And we were talking recently and he's like, "Oh yeah, before I did Dianetics, I was like totally ridden with like self-doubt and insecurities and stage fright and every time that I went up on that stage I had butterflies, like razor blade butterflies in my stomach, and no matter what I
Wasps.
did, right, and no matter what I did, I still had them. And he said that no matter what, like Dianetics is the thing that actually helped him address that and get rid of it so he can just go on the stage and just flow and allow himself to just create and perform not only for himself but for the audience as well. And he is just like, I mean, he's created some of the most beautiful music that's just simply from
Mhm.
him, and you can tell it's amazing.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And I love that, like you said, it is for everybody. It is something that everybody can do. You have to want it. You have to be able to, willing to do the work, but it's it's possible.
Totally.
And I try to get, my big thing but you have to be in your open mind. You have to be, I mean, in my opinion, and this probably isn't, I don't know if it's right or not, but it's my opinion is you have
Yeah.
to be drug free. Your mind
Yeah,
has to be willing to open up every
I
pathway.
agree. I
And,
totally agree.
that's why it breaks my heart to see people that are like, oh, I've been on antidepressants for 30 years.
Yeah.
Your mind doesn't even know. It's so rattled its
Yeah.
own systems. I mean, our bodies are so beautiful and so able to heal and do the
Right.
things until we intervene,
It's so true. I'm
you know?
totally on the same page with you. I totally agree.
So it's like, my parents were both drug addicts. And when I was suicidal and they did want to put me, this is before the guy told me, this is when I actually was. Um, but when all they wanted to do was take this medicine, take that medicine, take this
Mm.
medicine. I was like, I have enough trouble figuring out who I am and what I want and how I'm going to
Right.
survive this world in my own mind. Like, give
Right.
me something that's going to change the way I think. Now they're
Yeah.
really throwing it. And I refused. And it was hard because, I was fighting those bad thoughts and for a long time, but I did it 100%. I've never taken an antidepressant. I've been through some
Wow.
dark times.
Yeah.
So you can do it. You can
Totally.
do it. And there's tools out there that can help you do it. And there's coaches and there's people like you and there's people writing books. I mean, there's podcasts. It's doable. It's out there for
Absolutely.
the taking. You just have to really want to take it.
I love that you're saying that so much because I am totally on the same page with you that you honestly you have to be wanting help. Like you
Hmm.
have to be willing to have help and to put yourself in a position where you're like, okay, I know that I need change and I know that I need to do something. And even if you you know, even if it's hard for you, it is a step in the right direction for you to do. And I wanted to also bring up like if anybody is interested in actually learning more or like getting one-on-one instruction because it is very simple, but sometimes we need that like extra push or support, you know. There is a 2-day weekend seminar that you can do at any of our Dianetics foundations. And it's absolutely wonderful because you not only get to learn about Dianetics more and you get to watch a great film on it, but you actually get to deliver Dianetics technique to somebody else and help them with their traumas and with their problems from their past. And you also get to get it delivered to you. So you get to see both sides of it where you actually get to experience the full like miracle of Dianetics, which is just, I mean, it is amazing. And I had a friend who actually recently did it and he realized that he had lost his mom about a year ago and was holding on to all of the grief. And he doesn't really seem like it. Like he doesn't seem like the person who would be holding on to a bunch of grief. And we all walk around like totally normal, if you will. But
Mask.
right, exactly, with like a veil over, right? But we don't realize what other people have gone through. And so my friend actually he had lost his mom a year ago and then was holding on to that grief and it was really holding him down. And so he's like, I really want to address that and where is the grief and let's get rid of some of it. And as he was doing the Dianetics technique and going back throughout these memories that he had, he realized that what was actually causing him to continue to hold on to the grief was that he lost his dad when he was about 1. But he
Mm,
wasn't associating that because he's like, I didn't know my dad.
mm,
Like, I didn't know him. And so why would that cause me to have, like an upset later in my life? But he was associating even his mom's like mental problems and her emotions, all of her grief that she was feeling at that
Mhm.
moment. He was holding on to mom's grief, which later when she died, he was then holding on to her grief. And then that's what was happening is he was reliving that. And when he
Mhm.
actually spotted that and addressed it and got rid of all the negative mental energy, he was able to finally just feel relief. And it was the most beautiful thing because he finally was able to talk about his parents and the loss of his mom without like even crying. Like
Crying.
just
I
had the
was.
beautiful, memory and that
Mhm.
it was great.
Yeah, no, it's so liberating when you can let go of that emotional charge, like you said, or that electrical charge or energy charge or whatever
Totally.
it is to those situations. Because I know that's why I didn't coach for so long because me being in a room and sharing it would trigger me. I mean, that,
Yeah.
and I couldn't do it. I was like, no, but now it's like I tell these stories so casually and people are like, their mouths drop open and I'm like, oh, it was just a thing, like
Right.
no charge to it, and
Yeah.
and it's so liberating just because I mean it's just liberating. It
It
makes
totally
you
is.
back to that original, like you said, that joyous beautiful creature that before your light was blown out with a bunch of shit. Can I say that? Oh, this is my podcast, so I can say anything I want.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, oh, wait, I don't know, which side am I on here.
Yeah.
um but no, that's awesome. So do you work directly with these retreats or weekends, seminars?
Yeah, well, I actually work at the publisher of the book Dianetics, and so I get to actually
Okay.
just help people all the time with the book Dianetics and the technique and help people learn about it because let's like honestly, there is no education out there that gives us like the manual for the mind. Like
Oh, you
truly.
wish, wouldn't that be
Yeah,
cool if there was?
yeah, but that's what Dianetics is it's actually a manual for the mind. And I like to explain it in this way where imagine you were given a brand new machine that you had no idea how to operate. And then somebody told you, okay, I need you to work this machine and to work it and make a product out of it. And you stand there totally clueless and don't know how to do it, and you weren't given a manual. You wouldn't know what to do, right? But if
Right.
you were given a manual, you would know exactly what to do, how to operate, and feel very confident also operating it. And that's exactly how Dianetics works, is that it is actually a manual for the mind. It explains these two parts of the mind, also the reactive mind, how that works, how it works against us, why it's a dangerous thing, and not only that, but how to get rid of it so that you are not affected by it. And that gives you the confidence and the ability to fully operate at your full ability. And you are just you because your mind, as you've been saying, is the most powerful thing that we have and that you have control over because nobody else is going to be able to control you except for you. And there's
Mhm.
nobody that knows us better than ourselves. And so when we actually put in the work and we learn about the mind and get that education, we actually are able to take control of it and take responsibility for it. And improve our lives and be able to live up to our full potential that we want to.
Awesome. Yes, very well said. Very well said. So, okay, so you work in do you work with people one on one, or can people reach out to you is what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like,
If people want to reach
okay.
out to me, they absolutely can. And like I was saying, also, like we have Dianetics foundations all over the world. So if you are anywhere in the world, you can go to Dianetics.org and you can find the nearest one near you.
Okay.
And then if you want more information, you can obviously go to Dianetics.org. You could also you could get the book on Amazon or Barnes Noble or anywhere that books are sold. And then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, you can always find us on our social media accounts at Dianetics, and you're more than welcome to connect with us at any way that you possibly can. We have connections all over the place. So,
Love it.
yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been very
Yeah.
enlightening. I love it. Thank
Thank you.
you.
I enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, absolutely. And for everybody else, oh wait, you're not off the hook. Give them your biggest, boldest statement, words of wisdom from Josie Gibson.
My biggest, boldest statement is in this 2026 year, or even in the future, if you're listening to this, I encourage you to do something new about your mental health and to take that next step to actually improve yourself and be willing to improve yourself to the point where you're able to live up to your fullest potential.
Amen. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And for everybody else out there listening, another technique, another modality, another bit of resources. This is what we're here for here at Adult Child of Dysfunction, so that you know that you are not alone, that your struggles are not unique. Not that they're not unique, but that we
Yeah.
all have them. We all have those struggles. We all have those inner critics. We all have those reactive minds until we don't. And it is worth every step and every second that you spend learning how to undo some of the stuff that was done to you. And like you said, it's not your fault. None of this is your fault.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for a more happy and joyous life, you oh so deserve it, my friends. So we will see you back next week. Thank you.